You sought an adventure in a physical universe. Having lived so long in the loving, cuddly protection of your godparents. And they raised you and said, off you go now. We've created a planet for you. Time to get physical. Oh, you know. And so you came here 15 million years ago, and you're just now starting to get it right. God bless you. I see that you have passed your first initiation, a rather third-dimensional initiation. And by the way, if I have not properly introduced myself, I am the Lord, High Highness, Avatar from the great central sun known as Maitreya. I have many titles, but that's the short one. Pleased to see you. Because I have met you before. I met you when you did not remember me. I met you to initiate something in your life that would ensure in this embodiment, to ensure in this embodiment that something spiritual, of a spiritual nature, would enter your consciousness. Many seek this, many try, many struggle. But it is futile. It is futile. If you have not discovered, you will fall off the path, and many have. If your effort has not been caused by the grace of God. Only the grace of God opens the way for something to happen in someone's life where something spiritual enters their consciousness. And that's just the beginning. And this I did for you centuries of years ago. Each of you have a lifetime in which I, as Avatar from the Central Sun, former teacher of the ancient Himalayan mystery school, came upon your life. And I brought about the great God initiation. And that is an initiation that brings at least a wave of the grace of God upon you. And upon that wave, something of a spiritual nature enters your consciousness. And it won't leave you alone. It won't leave you alone until you take up a certain practice, spiritual practice, certain remembering. And then eventually there are many phases and greater initiations yet to come. So you faced your rather third-dimensional initiation arriving at a hotel under renovations. A hotel that had promised your academy, no problem, done, end of year, 2017. So, well, I just happened to influence a few engineers and contractors, and let's delay this. It's not uncommon when do renovations happen on time? Especially a $50 million one. To go over, that's not uncommon. So, twitch of my nose, a few movements of my hand, a few contractors not showing up, engineers double billing themselves. Oh my, the renovations are going to be delayed. They're not going to be complete. And those pink ones. Those pink ones from heaven, those wascally roses. Let's see how much peace is in their hearts. Let's see if they will be as cool as a hot chocolate sundae in a hot, hot sun. Or they will be as cool as an iceberg from the North Pole. So I ask you, did you pass your initiation? Yes. Did you lose your cool? No. Did you maintain your peace and harmony? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. Was anyone watching? Yes. You betcha. You betcha. Please, make yourselves comfortable. All right. When I organize this covenant, this is mine. I do it my way. And, of course, there's one in the universe that's very inquiring. And I just said to her, Mother, and I said, I've looked at your outline for the year, and I am going to initiate the clarity of purpose. And she looks at me and says, and? I said, that's it. Clarity of purpose? Oh, you've got more behind this. And of course I do. And if you've listened to your Wednesday Tree of Life class, which was just 2 days ago, so probably most of you have not yet because you've been on the road traveling. That's to be understood. But she leaked information. Not enough you got leakers in your world. She hacked into my weekend. And she leaked information about what I was up to. Well, she kind of had to, because she's been laying out the year of initiations. And she had to get to what was going to happen in the Ascending Hearts Conclave. And that's way down in November in Vancouver. So to reveal the initiation, she had to leak a little bit of information about my covenant. So yes, initiation of clarity of purpose. And you will not leave. You will not leave until you have that clarity. We will not only have that clarity, we will rededicate. Because this evening, Friday evening, that the rest can unfold is about dedication and consecration. Now, precious hearts, there are two basic groups in the world. One's a majority and one's a minority. The ones that are a minority are alive. The ones that are a majority, you're going to love it. They're the walking dead. Oh, let's say it a different way. Let's step it up. The minority are those who are illumined or are becoming illumined. The majority of the people of the earth fall in the unillumined category. Should we keep going further? Yes? So the illumined have learned or have reacquired their relationship with Source. We have to use too many fancy words. I'm going to simple words. I don't think I need to say infinite, mighty, I am, presence, mother, father, God is all that is. Source. God. That'll work for me. Okay? So the illumined, they have somewhat discovered their source, and they are learning, they are discovering to tap into that source so they have a continuous, ongoing source of life to feed their physical embodiments. That's the illumined. The walking dead, they only use that burst of source energy that came with them when they were born and life anchored in their heart. Because of what is going on in the earth, they don't become illumined. So by the time they're a mid-child, they're not drawing a continued life stream consciously from source. They've made the switch. They've turned off the divine. They take on an animal nature. And the only place they know to make sure that they have the source of life they require, because they don't know their source. They've disconnected. So what's their source of life? Air, food, water. So, yeah, they're the two groups. Those who are alive and those who are the living dead. Those who are the illumined and those who are the unillumined. Yeah, that's calling a spade a spade. I'm not putting any judgment. It's one of those things. It is. It is. And the illumined, of which you are a part of, you have a great responsibility to work with your ascended, your angelic host, and those of us high up the ladder, and I'm on the top of the ladder. If you crawl all the way to the ladder, what do you find? Maitreya. So those who are illumined, those who are the walking dead, just take on an animal nature, and and just their source of life is air, food, water, whatever. Even the animal kingdom who've been touched by love or dedication. There are lots of stories of people in Africa, people that have gone to Africa and befriended these mighty lions and tigers, and then after a while have to let them go back to their natural habitat. And there's stories and pictures where these ones go back to Africa. They go out into the fields where the lions are, and the lioness recognizes that the one that saved her life runs up to the owner, and on the back legs rises up in a big lion hug. Why? Because that animal not only has the animal nature imposed upon them by humans, those animals have been touched by someone who loved them. And what did that turn on? It turned on the impersonal, the responding, where the animal responds to the love that one gives to them. That's the third activity of God, isn't it? Yes. Well, it is in the school I went to. So here's the deal. Those who approach being illumined, and now we're talking about just approaching. We're not even talking the path yet. But those approach maybe becoming illumined are those who realize, and to the best of their ability, dedicate themselves to something greater than themselves. Does that sound reasonable? And that's where it starts. That's where it starts. Now, we have seen this. We have seen people see others on a spiritual path. Oh, that looks attractive. Why don't I try that for a while? And after a while, they can't. They can't maintain it. Why? Because they don't have a dedicated consciousness. And the only way you get a dedicated consciousness, where you are able to dedicate yourself to a cause, to something greater than yourself, is if the grace of God is upon you. And that happened some centuries for all of you. But you see, that just opens the door. When the grace of God is upon you, it's not because you deserved it. It's because you were fool enough to put your hand up and say, I'll go down there and I'll help lead the Great Awakening. Are you sure? Are you sure you want to do that? Yeah, that's what you said apparently. So then a couple people had to show up, some prophets, some avatars, some Buddhists, some Christ had to show up over these thousands of years and get you ready. Because we know if you have not dedicated your life to something, to a purpose greater than yourself, you will fall off the path. You will never become illumined. I mean, this takes ideas of making a difference in people's lives. Go and do some volunteering at the Salvation Army. Go work in the soup kitchen. That takes it to another whole level, which are all wonderful things to do. But this takes it to another whole level. You will discover and discover and discover and discover all weekend long. That is my covenant with you this weekend. We're going to tweak. We're going to find missing holes, things that had to be left out in the teaching because there was not illumination. And don't you let me, because I am extremely telepathic. And the very fact that you agreed to be here this weekend, you have opened your mind to me, and I can read your mind. Absolutely. I mean, even as son has said sometimes, I don't want to go there, but I'm an avatar. I am who I am, so I can do this. So tonight, throughout this weekend, you're going to discover many, many things. So you've already discovered one thing, because there's one thing that you can count on that happens in every aspirant's life. And it's probably happened several times. Several times, and you think you've made a promise, you think you've made a choice, but unless that choice has been consecrated, well, have you ever made a New Year's Eve resolution that you didn't follow through on? Well, it's kind of like that. Until your choices have been consecrated, your decisions have been consecrated, you can fall back on them. You can fall off the path. And nothing in your mind can be consecrated until your consciousness is dedicated to something greater than yourself. So let's go right to it. What's the clarity of purpose that we are going to rededicate? Rededicate this weekend. Good evening.
Good evening.
I am Maitreya. You are Lisa.
I am.
Indeed. What is in your consciousness?
Everything.
Ah, that's a sneaky wise answer. You. What would you like to have in your consciousness? Perfect. Triple A plus. You get to sit in my throne all weekend long. Do you really think the people in this world are ready for you to be so perfect? Good for you. I like you. You see, you can get away with attitude as long as you do it with a smile on your face. I don't always do it with a smile on my face, my attitude thing, which is why some people don't like me. But do you think I care? Not at all. So that's it. That's it. You can try to dedicate yourself to something. You can dedicate yourself to a cause. You can make New Year's Eve revolutions. You can do all these things. But chances are, if that dedication was not initiated by an act of grace, and there's nothing you can do to get that active grace bestowed upon you. In fact, in times past, there have been warmongers who've been touched by the grace of God. People by the millions rose in their own hatred. But Ramtha, he was a warrior. If you know anything about Ramtha, he was a warrior. Killed millions of people. But God knew Ramtha's heart. Ramtha's heart certainly was not in his head at that time. And an animal nature had taken over his body, but God knew what was in his heart. And one day God began to speak through the wind to Ramtha and bestowed an act of grace. In that moment, he rededicated his life. He recalled all his troops home. Not another person was killed. And he knew back. He knew. And now today he's a great awakened, ascended God being. He was from the system of Ra. The great King Ra and his queen, Anra. He wasn't supposed to lose his way, but he did. There have been those who've come from space and they lost their way. It's real easy. All you have to do is be a reflection of a human. You lost your way. So, precious hearts, this is the deal. All your effort to dedicate your life to something or some cause will go by the wayside if your dedication has not come as a result of an act of grace. Then, what follows is if you engage your spiritual practice in all God honesty, which you have not yet been honest with yourself, yet it's been there. Sometimes it's in the unconscious. Sometimes it's a question I dare not ask because I might not like the answer I give myself, but everyone asks it. Some are not too brave to ask it. Because you must be brave, because if you don't know the answer, you need to do some work. And what's the question? Is it really worthwhile? Is it really worth my time to engage a spiritual path? But you have to ask that question. And if you think that you haven't asked that question and wondered, think again. Are we willing to be honest? Yes. That even if you don't remember it, is it fair to say that there may have been times, even if you don't remember it, that you may have, put in my words, questioned if it's really worth your while, worth your time, the spiritual path, right? Right. So would you agree with me that you're past that mark? Yes. I would too. Because otherwise you would not be here. You would have fallen off. I would say that you are illumined enough that, you see, the grace of God upon you so that you can dedicate your spiritual inquiry leads you to a place where you dedicate your consciousness to God. That's it. We've made it. We've made a wonderful marker in our path. So are you willing? Yes. You've done it, but it has to be done again and again and again. Why? Because that makes sure you remember. And it makes sure, because you can't be touched just once. You got to be touched by the grace of God many times for what you will face, what you will go through. Because the grace of God gives you strength. And sometimes you faltered, sometimes you failed, sometimes you let the human get the better of you, of your divinity. And the reason it happened was the grace of God was not upon you again. The grace of God is waning. Understand? And we must make sure from this weekend, she's a steady flow. A steady flow, because with dedication comes consecration. And with consecration, it is only a matter of time. When the Grand Master Melchizedek shows up and opens the way for a stream of God to flow in your mind. Albeit slow at first, but it will never be stopped again. It'll just build and build and build. All right. Time for communion inwardly. Climb inside yourself. And I will offer you what to say to yourself. It is dedication time. You've done this, we're going to do it again, and we're not going to ever stop doing it. So inwardly tell yourself, with all of my heart and soul, with all of the efforts of my mind and my body, here gathered with other roses at Maitreya's covenant, I dedicate my consciousness to God. And every morning I will rise and I will say, this new day I dedicate again my consciousness to God. And I will know this dedication will be consecrated. And I will know the day will come that nothing but everything will fill my consciousness. Everything is God. I thank you. I have registered your willingness here to dedicate your consciousness to God. Now, throughout this evening, the act from the great central sun will be upon you. An act of grace will silently be upon you this evening, because with all your heart and your willingness, you saw the value of rededicating your consciousness, because that's the place where God's going to come and live and function and express. Do you understand? Yes. Adonai.